All right. Uh, Season two, episode four of the Harold Katz podcast. Glad everyone can join us this evening. Oren Glickman, Akiva Poppers, and of course, Coach himself. Very scary and tumultuous times that we're living through right now. We're obviously feeling a lot of pain with everything that's going on. Obviously, our viewers don't need to know what Coach thinks about all this because everyone is thinking the same way. I think the main reason why we want to have this show is because we want to ask Coach, how do we plow ahead with our regular routine and activities? And how can how can basketball be a good, you know, how can basketball really help us, with blocking everything out and still going ahead? So, Coach, please, you have the floor.
Well, I think before we even address that, we have to address what's been going on. I don't. I think if you're not Jewish, you don't. It's one of these things where you can't really understand. But let me try to give you some recent Jewish perspective, and by recent I say the Holocaust. Just let's go back to that. I hate when people do it, but I'm doing it anyway. And here's why I'm doing it. So if anybody saw what went on October 7th, um, you know, anybody who's actually an honest broker in this thing and doesn't have a anti-Semitic skin in the game, and I must be honest. Well, we'll get to that in a second. But it was just a brutal, awful. I can't even describe how barbaric it is. And then I want you to think about this. My brother said this to me the other day. Think about 5 years of that, because that's what happened in Germany and Poland. 5 years of that every single day. And to think that the people who survived that who went to Israel or came to America and were successful, what kind of mental toughness do you have to have? What kind of faith in your creator do you have to have? What kind of belief in the promise of scripture do you have to have? What better evidence is there of the creator of the universe than that? Because every other people that's kind of been put into these sort of extermination camps have been exterminated. I mean, there haven't been a lot of them, but the perpetrators are gone. The perpetrator that kicked us out of Spain in 1492, they're gone. And they were the number one empire in the world, like the Roman Empire, and they were gone. The Roman Empire was kind of moving along until they started messing with the Jew beehive. The Greeks, the Germans, I mean, think about this, this progressive society that we have. We put Social Security, which I don't actually agree with, but we put Social Security in place in 1933. Germany, the most cultured country in the world, the country of Mozart and Bach, I believe, started it in 1903. So the most cultured countries and most cultured societies in the world have all come after us. And like I always say, we don't get some young kid with a rifle just going off, popping 9 people in the church. We get the czar, we get the prime minister, we get the president, we get the king, we get the queen, we get the dictator, and in this case, we get the barbarians and their just low life palace guard media. I don't have words enough to describe. I mean, but let's put this in perspective for a second. This is mind-boggling. The Jews go through what they went through last Saturday. It was live streamed by their killers. They spread it all out on social media. And the whole world's going, give me proof. Let's see some proof. That's what we're hearing now. Where's the proof? I mean, give Hamas credit. I mean, I'll give them credit in this. They claimed the Jews bombed the hospital, and in 15 minutes, they counted 500 more people. in 15 minutes. You got to give them credit. And the New York Times does. And they don't even say Hamas says, they say the Palestinians say. Because they know if you say Hamas, it's like ISIS says. So think about these scumbags at the New York Times. And I hope one of y'all catch this and pop. You're welcome to tag them. You're welcome to put it on Instagram, do whatever you need to do. But these scumbag lowlives at the New York Times, and I'm not just saying the Times, but the Times ran with that, changed their headline 3 times, like the losers that they are. What about sourcing your material like Naftali Bennett asked them? Like, dude, how about some fact check? We're going to believe the people who just killed babies, who just took women hostage, these brave sons of bitches? We're going to believe them? When they say, oh, the Jews did it, it's always the Jews did it. And it's what's astounded me. I mean, astounded me around the globe is that no matter what, and I'm going to say this, no matter what and whenever it happens, some terrorist activity happens, and around the world, the first thing people think is it was a Muslim. That's a fact, and there's nothing we can do about it, because not all Muslims are terrorists. But for the most part, when we get these events, they're all coming from radical Islam. They're actually proud of it. I think they're insulted that people in college campuses are asking for proof that these things happened on October 7th. I think the mother, if Hamas heard that, they'd be like, "Yo, hell yeah, we did it. That's what we do. We behead people. We kill people, especially Jews." But I'm saying, like, give them credit. They were able to count 500 dead in less than 15 minutes. At 6:59, the parking lot gets. What's incredible? What's incredible is that the next morning in America, it's 2 in the afternoon in the Middle East, and there's a parking lot that's been burnt and a building that's supposed to be a hospital that's standing right there. And the media is going, well, the Israelis do it. CBS, ABC, NBC. Well, glad they're not peddlers of misinformation. Are you kidding me? Imagine the kind of death and destruction that's going to happen because these absolute scumbag losers in the media, and I said it and I'll say it again, these absolute scumbag losers in the media ran with this story, and every one of these lazy bastards ran with the same story because God forbid they should do their own legwork. This is not one of these things like, we should just let this go. Dude, how could you send your child to a regular university in America today? How could you do it? If you have a Jewish child, forget Jewish child. If you're trying to raise your kids with moral values, I mean, think about these little bastards in the streets now over there in University of Pennsylvania or, University of Chicago or wherever the hell there are, Stanford, Harvard. Think about this. I mean, if you say the wrong pronoun, they go to a safe room. God forbid you should call people out on the fact that they're murdering ladies, children, babies. One argument was, well, there's no proof they beheaded babies. They just killed them. Oh, is that right? Is that it? They just killed them? There's no proof they killed them now. Come on. Only in Israel does that happen. Only with the Jews. Because the only good Jews are Jews that are dead. Now they can make movies about dead Jews. God forbid they make movies about Jews fighting back. So, as a parent with children in Israel, it just, I have no respect for the media. None. I totally lost respect for them. There's no credibility. You have no credibility. New York Times, the Los Angeles Times is a joke. The New York Times is a joke. It's a joke. And that Jews still read that fish wrap is beyond me. I can't. The Daily News is the same thing. It's beyond me. There's such dishonesty. But we now are personally going to feel that because now the story's out and it doesn't matter that it's not true. And it's not true. And they just took the word of the murderers instead of the word of the people. And you know why? And here's why. Because they're all, as we say in my neighborhood, they're all ignorant. They're just all ignorant. But we call it ignorant over here. They're all ignorant. And they're ignorant because the same professors teaching these little bastards now in college and giving them the information that Israel's a colonialist enterprise. We'll get to that in a second. Those same people in the media, these 35-year-olds, were taught by these same ignoramuses in college in the ivory towers, who just come up with some theory out their ass that all these Palestinians were chased out. The Jews had, what, one gun for 10 people? They were Holocaust survivors with Tommy guns. But Nasser told them, the Egyptians and all these 7 countries that attacked Israel in 1948, told them to get out, where you'll come right back. They choked off the old city. Like, people have no idea. Look, I always have this question. Like, do you guys, you two guys, do you guys know when the PLO was formed? The PLO, which turned out to be the PA. You know what year they were formed? You can answer it.
I don't
Microphone.
think so.
You know,
Pop?
Pop?
Definitely after 1967.
One would think that, except they were formed in 1964 because of the occupation of 1967. The same reason that Jews were killed one day in Haifa in 1929 by the Arabs because of the occupation of 1967. Or in 1931 or 32 or 33, where they were just killing Jews random in Israel, where the Jews are from. And they killed them because of the occupation of 1967. Well, I'll tell you what, you take that occupation and shove it up your ass. You don't occupy the place where you're from. Jew, I'm a Jew from Judea. That's where I got my name, as a Jew from Judea. That's where the Jews are from. And how could being a colonialist is going someplace that you're not indigenous to, and I don't know, starting a colony. We live there. That's where we're from, and we'd have still been there if it wasn't for the Greeks, if it wasn't for the Romans, if it wasn't for the Arabs, the Muslims, the Ottoman Empire. The British let the Arabs do whatever they want to them. This is a joke. These kids are just ridiculously stupid. And the crazy thing is, you're paying 70 grand for that BS education. They're teaching you nothing. You know nothing. You can tell me you have a Harvard degree all you want, but it doesn't make your argument right. It just means you paid way too much money for your fake education. Those are the future leaders of this country. These people going to Harvard and Stanford and all that. They're the future leaders of this country. Strap up, because the support for Israel in America is on its last leg, God forbid. But that's what's up right now. Take a look. Look outside your window. Jews getting their ass kicked.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they were Jewish. And mind you, no one, I'm so sick of hearing about this open air prison nonsense. They quoted some pissed off Israeli intelligence guy who made that comment one time because he was mad about something. The Jews left in 2005, and I still have it on film. I still watch it. It still pains me every time I watch it. The Jews handed them greenhouses. They handed them beautiful neighborhoods. They got blown to smithereens on the first day, burnt up. 71% of the people who live in Gaza support Islamic Jihad. So no, they're not all guilty, but 3/4 of them support people who call for our destruction. You, me, Pop. It's incredible. I remember Tamir Goodman at 41 at Mount St. Joe. Okay, and Mount St. Joe was like great here, and he had 41, and we almost won the game. And there was maybe 20 people in the gym watching, maybe 30, maybe. I can't tell you. Every place I go, somebody was there. Everybody was at that game. And I know, because I have it on film, there's nobody at the game. It was the last game where nobody came to our, like where it was minimal. Now everybody's there. Like everybody's from Palestine. There was the Palestinians were the Jews and the Arabs who lived there. Stop acting as if you had some kind of state. You don't have a friggin' flag. You never had a friggin' president. You never had autonomy in the land. You got kicked out of Jordan because you tried to overthrow that government. You got kicked out of Lebanon, tried to overthrow that government. That's why Sisi doesn't want him in Egypt. Stop playing around. They tell you who they are. They tell you what they're fixing to do. They're fixing to kill me. They're fixing to kill you. They're fixing to kill you. And any other Jew listening to this. And we sit around and think that they have Western ideas. We got to be outside our mind. So, Pop, Oren, to answer your question, I don't know. In other words, we're in practice now. We're trying to move on. For me, it's a compartmentalization. Every day for the last week and a half has been 2 weeks almost. What's going on at home in Israel?
Right.
Every day, like you can't get around it, because every Jew, at least every Jew who cares about Israel, knows somebody in Israel, or has somebody in Israel, or is friends with somebody in Israel, or has relatives in Israel that are either A, in the army, B, were murdered, C, are trying to stay safe. So you have to compartmentalize. You have to say, like, it sort of goes back to what I always say about basketball and coaching. Like, whatever you're doing at that moment, that's the most important thing you're doing, or why do it? So, like, let once we're doing this, let's do this right. Am I looking forward to road games with my basketball team? Not particularly. You never really know what your reception is, and we've had some lousy ones over the years. I've been involved in a lot of lousy ones myself over 40 years, but who knows what this is going to be like now? But we ain't running away. The first thing we talked about was, you're a Jew. I'm a Jew. I'm not going to run away from that. I'm proud of that. I'm not putting my yarmulke away because the British and the French say I should do it. The hell with that. I'm not putting my yarmulke away. Like, this is who I am. You don't like it, you have to deal with it. There's a pasuk in Yeshaya, in Isaiah 5:20. It's one of my favorite in all of Tanakh, in all of the Bible. I'll say it only in English. Woe to those who say of evil that it is good, and of good that it is evil, who set forth darkness as light, and light as darkness, who set forth bitter as sweet, and sweet as bitter. Isaiah 5:20. If there is a verse in the Torah that discusses what this world is right now, that is it. And woe is to those that say good is evil and evil is good. Because we are watching Millions of people around the globe claim that evil is good. There's some higher morality play here. And that the Jew, that's what I was saying. Like a bomb goes off somewhere and you automatically think, oh, those friggin' Jews. No, you think, oh, the Muslims again. London, Buenos Aires, and name it. Israel. Just name it. Name the place. You never go. The world's first reaction is, damn, those Jews cause trouble everywhere they go. They do say that. But them Jews bombing innocents again. No, it's the Muslims. Sorry, it is. People get offended by that. Honestly, I could give two shits. I'm in the mood tonight. Sorry, I've tried not to curse since Yom Kippur, but that today doesn't seem to be the day.
Coach, you might want to reiterate though the point which you made earlier, just in case people are jumping around the show about it. It's a small subset of people who we're dealing with here who are radicalized, but those are the people who.
Well, okay, Pop. Let me be clear, okay? There's billions of Muslims in the world. Okay?
Yeah.
If only 15%, let's say 10% of them are radicalized. You're talking about
200.
50, 200 million, 300 million. That's enough. 19 million knocked the United States off. We're still dealing with it at airports. 19 people. Talk about millions, hundreds of millions of people that are trying to kind of end our existence. Our existence, not the forget the West for a second, because they want to destroy America too. But they want to kill the Jews. So I'm not cutting back on that. That's the truth. Or I have friends who are Muslims and I like them very much and they're friends of mine. But I'm not. Where you at? Step up to the plate and say something. God, Black Lives Matter. They had everybody was posting these things. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go to an NBA game where it wasn't written on the floor. You couldn't watch an end zone where it didn't have something in there. But God forbid some of them dudes should say something about the Jews. Where you at? Where you at? You get a handful here and there. But I mean, if you don't support Black Lives Matter, who, by the way, couldn't be more anti-Semitic right now if they put it on their forehead. Now, does that mean everybody believes in that cause? I don't know. But no one's stepping up and saying, hey, we disavow what Black Lives Matter Chicago or Black Lives Matter. We disavow them. Nobody's doing that. You don't see none of that. And all my friends, I have a ton of friends who I love dearly, who are African American, Black, whatever you want to call them. I mean, where y'all at? Where you at? Nobody says a word. Only good Jew is a dead one. So we can make movies about him, about how terrible that tragedy was. Dude, you're supporting the Germans right now. If you're walking with Hamas, you're supporting the Germans. This is what the Nazis did. You want to know what they did? This is what they did. They burned you alive, roping 10 kids together, piles of children that they tied together and burned. They put it like by the way, you know a hospital was hit last week in Ashkelon? Did the New York Times write about that? When the Arabs bombed Ashkelon and they hit a hospital? Not a word. Not a word. Nothing. You find out about it a week later. I mean, the President of the United States did a nice job until he says, well, then we're going to give them $100 million. You're going to give them what? You're going to give them $100 million? So you're going to replenish them? We're trying to get rid of them, and you're going to give them money. That's like you know, Romania saying to ISIS, "We're going to give you $50 million. You can finish the job in America." The hell kind of world we live in? What's going on here? So, Oren, it's hard to compartmentalize, but I think that's how you have to do it. You just have to go, because this too shall pass. And as the rest of those places, Germany, Rome, Greece, all these great, you study about that. You study about the Roman Empire in school. They messed with the bull. They got the horns. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just had left the Jews alone, you might have had a little staying power. They're all on the trash heap of history, and I have no doubt that this group will be as well.
I mean, I'm really sorry for getting emotional through all this, but you talked about how we need to plow ahead and, this too shall pass. But I feel like I saw a new low this week in Teaneck, of all places, considered the
So,
bedrock of modern Orthodox communities, and seeing what was happening with the town council passing the resolution and seeing that mob full of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, it really shook me.
explain what resolution they passed.
It was basically, supporting Israel's right to defend itself and condemning Hamas and all the actions in the recent weeks. Excuse me. And there were people who were protesting it, feeling that it was tilted more towards Israel, and you know, um,
I mean, what do you expect them to do? You asked for war. You got war. This is what you wanted. Now you go bitch and moan because you're getting hit. Stay the hell home. You poked the bear, dude. What did you expect was going to happen? You killed our babies. You took our mothers. You took our daughters. You took our sisters. You took our soldiers. What did you expect was going to happen? Think we're going to sit there and let you just abuse us? At some point, I say it here on this show all the time. Sometimes you got to tell people what you stand for and what you won't stand for. Then you can't take our children. You can't string them up. You can't slice their heads off. And we gotta prove to people that they had their heads sliced off now. That these Muslims are on TV demanding that we prove it. Oh, that didn't happen. Oh, that's AI or all that nonsense. We got to prove that to these dumbass college kids who get triggered when, a speaker who disagrees with them comes on campus, or somebody misgenders them and they go apeshit. And now we got to sit around and prove that? We have to prove that to your feeble mind? Are you kidding me? What kind of world are we living in? This is the future of this country. And God bless those CEOs saying they don't want no part of them dudes. Stop wearing a mask, you cowards. Get out in front. Let everybody see you. Stand up with your convictions and take your mask off. Take your little Yasser Arafat headdress off your head and let everybody see what you look like.
Coach, should we be worried about a rise in anti-Semitism in terms of Jewish competition throughout this upcoming season?
Look, I think in your kind of arena where you're the athletic director at a Jewish school in the Jewish league, it's kind of safe,
Right.
But I think if you're playing out of town, if you're in Seattle or if you're in Chicago or if you're in Boston or if you're in here in Baltimore or Washington D.C., have your head on a swivel a little bit. I'm concerned for Yeshiva University on the road. Not that not that they're just going, they're going to be jerks in the gym and jerks outside the gym. That's just what they are. People who side with evil and claim it to be the moral high ground, like these dudes that went into the Capitol yesterday, the Jews for Peace or whatever the hell they're called. They're funded by Hamas. They're funded by the Muslim Brotherhood. They can deny it all they want. The evidence is everywhere.
Well,
They're
it's the
funded
same. Yeah,
by the
it's
students of the same people who fund the student justice in Palestine. You're clowns. You're clowns. You wear a tallis? Really?
or how about those Neturei Karta? Is that
Yeah,
how you,
yeah. Screw them too. And I really try hard to not talk about my fellow Jew. But in this case, you're actively working against your people. Neturei Karta, you know, to me, they're no different than those who ignore Torah and say the Torah has no value. They're no different because they've taken the values of the Torah and they've turned them on their head and they've draped them in Hasidic garb and act as if they, again, have some moral high ground. They're not Zionists. They pray 3 times a day. At least they say they do. Return me to Zion. You say it 3 times a day. Well, if that's not Zionism, I don't know what is. And Zionism has now become a bad word. Jew wants to live in his home. Which one of these idiots forgot history class? There's no such. The Jews can't be colonialists in that country because it's their country. You want to make the claim that we're colonialists in Germany? All right, whatever. I'll give you that. But in Israel, Judea, where Jews come from Judah, get out of here with that nonsense. Get an education. It's like 50 cents. You can go get an old book in a library. Just go get an education. Just read something. Stop being such an idiot. How many Jews are in Gaza? I don't know. Ton. Jews are you put them in prison in Gaza. There's no Jews in Gaza for the last 17, 18 years. Nobody. There are no Jews in Gaza. There's no Jews in the Palestinian controlled areas on the West Bank. There are no Jews. There's a couple hundred Jews in these. There's no Jews anywhere in the Arab world because they kicked the Jews out in 1948. That's where the Jews had to go. Because as soon as Israel was declared, Syria kicked them out. Lebanon kicked them out. I mean, Mag and David exists because they got kicked out of where they were. Because the Arabs didn't want them there anymore. There's no Jews in Jordan. And the Jews are in an apartheid state with 2 million Arabs living in there. With Arabs on the Supreme Court, Arabs in the Knesset. Come on. You're ignorant. You're stupid. You're stupid. The professors who teach it are stupid. You have no idea. You're talking out your ass. You have no idea what you're talking about. So that's, I think there's a concern a little bit. I mean, I think most of the teams we play against, we have relationships with, even in our young age, our young age as a school. Now, there's some places where we would, I know if we played some of the teams that I played when we were at Talmudical Academy, we'd have some issues. And we still might. Who knows? It's up to God. But we I think you have to compartmentalize. You have to, like, first of all, that's for the adults. I mean, for the kids, they're kids. I mean, they have, like poppers, they have the attention span of a Twitter tweet. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, an X, whatever they're called now. They're kids, so they and you as an adult have to compartmentalize. The kids are already moving on. And every day they get reminded because they're in a Jewish school, and the Jewish school, it's everywhere. But I think as an adult working with kids, you have to always kind of make sure that they're mentally good, and so you do your athletics and you do whatever. And I think that's your commitment, or the commitment is to your kids, the kids you're responsible for, the kids you're coaching, the kids you're teaching, the kids you're the athletic director of. That's your job. You have to make sure that for them, life goes on as normal. And it's never going to be normal for us anymore. whether it's here or in Israel. It's never going to be no. And in a sense, I appreciate what's going on now in America, because now the masks are off. They don't have to pretend that they like us as Jews. They could just be the anti-Semite Jew haters that they are, and they can wrap it in, freedom fighters who go into bedrooms and shoot babies. Who, like, these freedom fighters just shot up a bunch of porta potties at that thing, just shot right through it, didn't even care. There was video, you could watch it. I mean, that's the crazy part, is all these people saying, oh, give us some evidence, blah, blah. Dude, they live stream this. They live stream burning people. We didn't get the information because we had it. We got the information from them. They live streamed it. They're proud of it. Let them be proud. And you should be proud too, because you support their activity as freedom fighters. Get the hell out of here with that. I'm disappointed. I mean, thank God for the Phillies and Major League Baseball and the NFL, who, stood up in most places, as far as I know, and said something. But like at Madison Square Garden, they booed. There was somebody who lost somebody who was at the game, and they booed. Well, the fact is, I think it was a WNBA game. So maybe it was the 10 people that were actually there. But you're booing because there's a part of me that's happy about it, Oren, because it's all out in the open now. You get to see who their responsibles are. And the media can no longer claim that there's no bias. CNN, NBC is embarrassing. MSNBC is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. CNN is embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And they constantly get things wrong. They were wrong for 3 years on Donald Trump and Russia. Constantly get things wrong. And they give voice to people who just flat out lie. What are we supposed to do? So you take refuge in your Creator. That's where I go. But by the way, once we're on the topic, we'll make a lot of friends with this. Once we're on the topic and we're looking at the book of Isaiah, I have a lot of Christian friends. My Christian friends always ask me how I can't believe in Jesus. And I always say, because I know Hebrew. I understand Hebrew. That's why I don't believe. But everybody points to Isaiah 53 as if the Jews don't want to read it. Tell me if this is not talking about the Jewish people right here. By the way, if you look at the previous chapters, 44, trying to remember them all, 41, 44, 46, 49, God, the prophet tells you who the servant is. The servant is Jacob, the Jews. It was despised and abandoned by everyone, a man of pain and afflicted with illness, and one from whom he turns his countenance away disdainful. We have never shown respect for him. But indeed, right? That sound familiar? That sound like that's going on today? But indeed, it was borne the illnesses caused by us and suffered the burden of pains inflicted by us. But we considered it as touched, smitten, and tormented by God. Is that not what the Muslims say about the Jews? That they are cursed by God. I mean, Isaiah 53 is talking about the Jews. We were errant like sheep, each one of us turning to his own way, and God visited upon him the sin of all of us. Was oppressed, it being the servant, Jacob. It was oppressed, but even when it was tormented, it did not open its mouth. Germany, October 7. like lambs led to the slaughter, and like a sheep that is silent before its shearers, it did not open its mouth. It was excluded from rulership and justice. They can't get on the UN Security Council. They're not welcome among the nations. And who can relate its history in detail? For it was cut off from the land of the living, and out of the transgression of my people there came about its harm. I mean, you could go through the entire chapter, and there's no way you can tell me that's not about the Jewish people. The whole book of Isaiah is about the Jewish people, our transgressions, the future. All of a sudden, this ain't about the Jewish people? This is about somebody else? Stop that. I'm more than happy to take that on any day you guys want. But like I felt guilty watching the Rams game last week. One, because they were terrible in the first half. So I felt like, why the hell am I watching this nonsense? But like I kept checking make sure my kids were okay. Make sure everybody else I knew was okay. Relatives. It's painful. It's very painful. And you get a sense, like for people who don't understand this, you get a sense like it's happening to you. You're almost afraid to walk outside. This is what's going on in America. And we're just pretending right now. We just, as Jews, are pretending. We're pretending, not us. This is all of Israel. This is not just the state of Israel. What's going on now is a war with all of Israel. If you support Hamas, if you support them in their activity, then they are straight up, people who support them are our enemy. Because their stated goal is to kill every one of us. And as you see, they have no qualms doing it. It's only afterwards, when they realize that, oh man, we put that brutality on the air, let's go lie to all the media. Oh, it wasn't us. It was regular people from the Gaza. So we can't have guests tonight. I'm not in the mood to talk about guests. That's why I didn't want anybody. But I thought, just for us, we should at least say something. And by the way, you got either one. Are you in New York, Pop? You're from New York? How is Charles Schumer? The next time I hear Charles Schumer talk about how he is Shomer Yisrael, the guardian of Israel, your silence is ridiculous. You got a free trip to Israel. That's what you got. I won't say it because he's a Jew. But where are you at? How do you let these people walk the halls of your building and say nothing? Hold nobody accountable for their anti-Semitism? And you're the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate and you say nothing? Jerry Nadler, you say nothing? You have nothing to say to the pro-Hamas militants that you have in your houses? You say nothing? Are you that embarrassed to be a Jew? Is it that much of a burden to you? Or are you only a Jew when it's convenient? When you get asked to speak at a UJA Federation nonsense. Then you'll stand up there and talk about your Shomer Yisrael. I could care less what that guy has to say. We need Jews who are going to be counted today. Not Jews who are going to sit in the middle of the Capitol and work against our people. You're working with the enemy. You are supporting the, if a microaggression gets you called a Nazi, you're actually sitting and supporting this generation's Nazis. And they live streamed it for you to see. And you support them. Those who are merciful to the wicked are ultimately wicked to the merciful. That's the lesson when King Saul leaves the king of Amalek alive for a day. And the prophet Samuel comes to him and says, were you not told to kill him? And he said, well, the people wanted him to live. And that night, eventually, Haman came out of that. Those who are merciful to the wicked are ultimately wicked to the merciful. And that's turned out to be true, and it's true today.
Coach, what's your advice to Jewish athletes during a time like this? How can they help the cause? How can they promote a lot of good during a time like this where we're all hurting?
Well, I mean, you talk about professional athletes. You could do what Ian Kinsler did last night, where he walked out and he was wearing an Israeli jersey from his time as playing and coaching for
Right,
and
right.
managing the Israel team. You have to stand up and be counted. You do like Omri did, or like Denny did. But I mean, they're Israeli, so you would expect them to do it. But Jewish athletes, even in high school here, I think there should be an acknowledgement. It's difficult to do because sometimes you have young teams. So, like from a professional athlete, there's not a lot of us, not a lot of Jews in professional athletics. But a professional athlete needs to be counted. He needs to be vocal. He can't be afraid. And I think your high school kids, same thing. And I think the college kids. I know Jeremy Schaap came to YU yesterday. I think he was supposed to go Monday or something, but it ended up moving to yesterday. I mean, the basketball team, I'm sure, did what was right by them. You have to say something. The days of us cowering in fear have got to be over. So for a young high school athlete, they should be involved in like a chesed project, a charity project. Let's see if we can raise money to send some tefillin to Israel, to send some food for the troops, to get money for bulletproof vests or ammunition. I'll tell you a story. Our neighbor, a really good friend of ours, their son got recalled to Israel. He just got married too, and he got recalled to his unit. And his unit had already lost a few people. So I think it was his uncle. He asked his friends what they needed. He asked his commander what they need. He said, we need ammunition. So his uncle, who was from Israel but was only here for a visit, went to a munitions store and told the guy he needed a box of whatever, like a big box. And he said, it's fine, I'll sell it to you. Can I ask why you need it? Because my nephew's going to Israel to fight. And he says, say no more. He walked back, he gave him 6 of them. And he said, your money's no good here. Just take care of those guys. So there are people, good people. And I'm proud of those who they're talking. I'm just stunned by the silence of the same professional athletes who all the time. Where's LeBron James in this? Where's he at? Well, he don't shut up when it comes to something like this. He always has something to say. And demanded that you thought the same way. All those virtue signaling dudes, where are you at? All the media that made a big deal about this hospital that wasn't hit yesterday. Where are you at when Ashkelon's hospital got hit? Where are you at? Clowns, every bit of you. You're just clowns. Just duplicitous, ignorant. You have no idea the history of the land. None. They have no idea. None. And like I said, everybody in the world is now, all 2 million people from Gaza come from Palestine. My ass, Algeria, Jordan. Like, why doesn't anybody say something about Jordan? Why isn't Jordan colonialist? That was also part of the Ottoman Empire when they split it up. Like, 78% of Jordan is actually biblical Israel or something like that, or was part of the Balfour Declaration or something like that, or the white paper. It was one of them. The Egyptians, where are the Arab countries when it comes to, look, I never would have done what the Israelis did. The Israelis are, I would never have turned back on the water or something like that. It's a simple equation. Release our people, you get water. The fact is that we care more about their population than they do. It's a fact. And people in this country and all over the globe, in England and France, they side with them. Useful idiots. They're all useful idiots. So with me, it'll be more of a chesed program, like do some charity work, try to raise funds, something like that.
Coach, obviously your point is your general point about there being a lot of high profile individuals who haven't said anything stands. I just regarding LeBron did put out something which was
was it
anti-terrorism.
Was it a tweet?
I think it was on Instagram.
Do you stand with Israel on Instagram? I'm more than happy to apologize.
Yeah, I can pull up his.
Or was it just some generic innocent on both sides type of thing?
No, it was more. Here, let me flip my. There you go. I'll read it. The devastation in Israel is tragic and unacceptable. The murder and violence against innocent people by Hamas is terrorism. The Spring Kill Company family sends our deepest condolences to Israel and the Jewish community. We pray for peace from the region and reiterate our continued commitment to fight hidden forms and all must work to ensure this tragedy does not spread even more hate, racism, and anti-Semitism.
Good for you,
yeah,
LeBron. My apologies.
Yeah,
obviously
your general point stands, but I just wanted to.
I don't do Twitter or Instagram. I was just surprised that nobody kind of retweeted. So I apologize to LeBron James. That wasn't fair of me for not knowing. But it's few and far between, sadly. Now, maybe there's more. I don't do all this nonsense. So maybe there's more, but it just doesn't seem to be as vocal. It just doesn't seem, maybe that scumbag media doesn't vocalize it enough.
Coach, one point that I find very interesting, connecting the atrocities that are happening and your philosophy as a coach. You always talk about how the Jewish people should go up against the biggest and the baddest, that we should not fear anyone. And you kind of apply that to your coaching too, regardless of the skill level of your team, that you want them going up against the best of the best. So I find that very interesting. Is there like kind of a connection between the two?
Well, I just think, what, my favorite person in the Bible was Judah, because he took responsibility for stuff he didn't do, for stuff he did. Like he's gonna kill his daughter-in-law, and all of a sudden she comes out with his signet ring and a cane, and he's like, "Oh snap, that was me. My bad, yo." Where he says to Joseph, "Let Benjamin go out, keep me. I'll take responsibility for my brother." He always takes responsibility for his mistakes, besides the fact that King David came from him in his relationship with Tamar. And so, but then learning the book of Samuel, King David's a man, dude. He is the man. You know, Goliath comes and he's gonna, you know, he's making all this noise about making the Jews serve him and stuff like that. And King Saul puts all these armor on David, and David's like, I can't do anything with this, man. Get this off. And he puts 5 rocks in his back in a slingshot. He just walks up to him and he says to Goliath, like, you have, he's like, you're a little boy, get away from me. I'm gonna destroy you, and your people will serve me forever. He says, au contraire. I'm gonna take you on. He hits him right in the head, boom, one shot, knocks him out. And he was like, I'm not fighting for me, I'm fighting for the creator of the universe, the God of Israel. It's interesting. He says the God of Israel. Other people want to claim David as their own. So there's a toughness to that. King Saul says to David, like, what are you trying to do? You're going to get killed. He's like, well, I handled a lion and I handled a bear with my bare arm, with my bare hands. I think I can handle this guy right here. So David was a man. He's a very close second to Judah, King David. And you know, there was like a fear God. That's it. There's Menachem Begin part of me. I love Menachem Begin. I love Menachem Begin because he said, I'm not afraid of any person. I'm afraid of God. That's it. I'm not afraid of any man. He was a man of high character and integrity. And we are, our upcoming year is basically outside of 1, maybe 2 players, is all 9th and 10th grade. And we're going to play a varsity schedule, and we're going to get our face kicked in, and that'll be good because we need to learn how to lose so we can appreciate how to win. Now, do I think we have a chance to win some games? I do. Is it going to be easy? No, not with a bunch of little kids like that. And we're young, and we're going to be a bit of a mess early on, but I'm hoping by February we can play a little bit, maybe January. So no, I'm not. Yeah, that's kind of where it comes from. Or in like, yeah, and the correlation is the cowering Jew in the corner with the knees knocking. That's why Israel exists. Those days are over. You know, and I think it's a miscalculation on the part of the Arabs. They just kind of think like the Germans did, and like the Greeks did, and we're different. I mean, think about that. What did they say? There's 8 billion people in the world, they just said. 8 billion? We're 15 million, and we're still here? And come on, how does that happen? The church tried to get rid of us? Still here. If there's a greater proof of the word of the creator of the world than the Jewish people, I don't know what it is. Because how are we still here? Everybody tried to wipe us out. Now the world got a front row seat because of social media. We're still here. The proof that God's a God of his word. So, yeah, I think everybody should strive for excellence. And the only way you get that is by kind of playing above your pay grade a little bit. Then you find out what you can be, instead of always taking like, yeah, let's go play the Sisters of the Poor, you know. Like let's go play somebody. Let's get beat once or twice and see if we can handle them by the end of the year. You know what I mean? So that's sort of my philosophy, and I think that, you know, when you consider just, I mean, and I think this is an important point. I think you have to understand how the Arabs talk, because when they say, well, we're going to release civilians, but they believe that every single Jew in Israel is a soldier. 2 years old, 4 years old, 8 years old, they're all soldiers. You have to decipher what they say, because Hamas is extremely dishonest. I don't think they say anything that's true, actually. I mean, history has proven that to be the case. So the way I know that they're lying is their lips are moving. So
A lot of people are going to be wondering when watching this show. They probably figured we would do another YU Max preview leading up to the season. Can you tell the viewers why we as a group, someone, all three of us who work on this show together, why we felt it was an important need to go in a different direction tonight and talk about Israel and everything that's going on?
I mean, basketball has its place. I mean, in my life, it's kind of been what I've been doing for more than 40 years. It's hard to talk about basketball nowadays. And I think we can't ask somebody else to step up and get our back if we don't do it ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. We have to stand up and be counted here. It's time to say, I'm a Jew and I'm going nowhere. Like that, like if we just ignored whatever was happening and did some preview show, or we had some guest on talking about X's and O's, and there's time for that, and we'll do that maybe next week even, you know. But for now, how could we not do this? I feel for my people. My soul is in turmoil. Turmoil. I can't sleep. I eat too much, actually. It's you know, I guarantee you, anybody who's ever learned about the Holocaust in history class or something, at some point, especially if you're Jewish, at some point, you had to say to the teacher or to somebody else, like, how did the people let this happen? Like, how did all of Germany and Poland, and how did they let this happen? And I look outside the window today and check the internet and check out everybody's protest. And now I know why the Jews were in the situation they were, because nobody cared. Matter of fact, they took the side of the Nazis. I was listening to a speech by Rabbi Usher Wade, who I believe it was Usher Wade, who was a priest, was in divinity school and had his first job. I believe it's something like this. I think it's Usher Wade. His first job was in Berlin. I think it was Berlin. And he said what really got him wondering why he was doing what he was doing in the church was it was the anniversary of Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. There was a picture in the paper of the town square and the windows getting broken, and right outside his window. And he turned to, I guess, the head priest or something, and said to him, what happened the next day? Were you here? And he said, yeah. I said, well, what happened the next day? So we just went about our business. I mean, and it turns out that the Nazi Party had like 150% increase the next day of their membership. It was something like that. It's a massive. And now I get it. Now I understand. I look out the window. I see what's going on at college campuses, and I just go like, I mean, it's scary stuff, man. It's scary stuff, but you can't be afraid, can't run away. But the reason basketball, it just didn't feel right. I feel like talking ball tonight just wasn't something I was fixing to do. And regardless if nobody watches this, you know, we have to you know, catharsis for ourselves, maybe for just me. You know, you got to vent somehow. it's the ignorance that bothers me. It's the ignorance of every reporter. Well, the Palestinians lived here. What the hell are you talking about? Okay, Miss Reporter, can you tell me who the last president of Palestine was? Could you tell me what the newspaper was? How about what was the currency? It was called a shekel. The Palestinian Post was in Hebrew. I mean, I suppose it was in English as well. Like, what are you talking about? Why was it called Syrup? I think it was called, I think they named it Syra Philistina, right? Or something like that. And now it's on the Palestinians want to say that the Canaanites, first they were the Philistines, now they're the Canaanites. Now King King Solomon's temple was never built. It takes a special kind of low-life human to deny the reality on the ground and understand that there's never been anything they recovered out of the ground in Israel that didn't testify to an Israeli kingdom at some point, or something around the Jews being living in Israel, and they can't find one thing of Arabic descent, or at least Arabic governmental descent, because it didn't exist. And you can rewrite history all you want. And how do we steal a land? Explain that to me. We're Holocaust survivors. We had nothing. What are you talking about? They left the country. They left their houses because they were promised by the Egyptians and the Jordanians and the Syrians that they were going to be able to return and take over the entire land because they were going to wipe the Jews out from the river to the sea. Learn some history. How could you pay $70,000 for an education and not know a thing about history? And they just pop off like there's some kind of it's those who call evil, woe to those who call evil good and good evil.
It's unfortunate that we needed to have an episode like this.
Yeah.
We did feel it was necessary. Thank you all for tuning in tonight.
Yeah, about done with it.
We'll hopefully pivot back to regular programming for the next episode. Wishing you all a good night, and please all be safe out there.
Please.
Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you guys. Shabbat Shalom.